Okay, guys, this is the moment you've been waiting for, that you've been donating for. This is Super Valis 4, and we had this bid war, right?
Yeah.
And I guess you want to know what our hair color will be. And I can tell you that with $62 compared to $34, red hair has won.
Oh.
So take it away now.
So, hi again everybody, I'm Tinnue, or most people just call me Tin. I've been running Super Valis 4 today. So, yeah, so pretty short but nice little speed game. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about it pretty soon. So, since it's red hair, there's not really much to do. If we wanted to go for blue hair, there is a thing you can do. You have to have both shoulder buttons pressed when you press start for the first time to get into the game menu. So not game start on the game menu, but right to get into the menu, just press L and R at the same time, and then you get an alternate costume for the character. So, but since we are good to go, we can start in a tiny bit. There's gonna be a little bit of a cutscene before the game starts. I'm gonna try and count you down for the timer, but pretty much it's 4 seconds after Act 1 Vacanti is shown on screen. So, let's see. So outside of Japan, this game pretty much went under the radar. So there's a US version for it too. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that soon. So 4 seconds from now, time is gonna start now. So again, welcome to Super Valis 4. It's a bit of a short but awesome speed game. You're gonna notice pretty soon that this game has a bunch of really awesome music, and the thing with this game is, this is actually not the first version or the first game, since there was a game earlier for a different console, and that was actually for the PC Engine. So this is more like a port for the SNES. And that's two very different game experiences, since the PC Engine version is a bit of a longer game. It has more stages, different music, different characters. You also have voice acting, which you don't in this game. So it's actually quite interesting if you played both versions. So you can actually see the differences between the two games. For this game though, however, we have two versions. What we are playing right now is the Japanese version. Japanese version is, there's a reason we play this. There's also the US version. We have pretty much all versions and categories covered on the leaderboards, but it's a really big difference between those. So the Japanese version is the most played one, mainly because in the US version you only deal half the amount of damage you do in this version. But on top of that, and I don't know who came up with that idea, since this is really a big difference, you only deal half the damage, but you take double the amount of damage in the US version, which makes it a pretty hard game, especially casually. And also, if you die in this game, that's really rough. You die in this game, you lose all your upgrades. You pretty much start at the very beginning of a stage every time. There is no checkpoints or anything like that. And you lose everything. So you don't have any sub-weapons to help yourself out at all. So really Japanese version makes a really big difference. We have three difficulties you can play on. It's easy, normal, and hard or difficult. And if you imagine, this is normal. Normal is quite doable also casually. If you play on difficult, that's quite easy. That's quite hard to do because you For most sub-weapons, you don't have actually the amount of ammo we have for this one. Bosses take a lot more damage and all that, so imagine that, but then also with the perk of the US version where you only deal half the damage. If you play that on the hardest difficulty, that's not a lot of fun. So, talking RNG for this game. This game loves RNG, but also hates RNG. What that means is, if we talk stages, the stages are pretty much pure execution. So the way the enemies come at you, it's always the same. Unless your movement changes, the way you approach them, they approach you differently too. But if you do the same movement in this game every time, the enemies will move the same every time as well. So it's really a lot of memorization and trying to just check the route, which route you should go. But there's almost no RNG, except a little bit in the later stage. Talking bosses though, that's a completely different story. Bosses are heavy RNG. That's up to a point where if you do PB attempts, it really comes down to 1 or 2 bosses sometimes. Like you have the first 2 bosses, you have a bad boss fight, you can already reset. It's pretty heavy. You can lose from 5 seconds up to half a minute just by boss RNG. So one thing I wasn't talking about is you might see here my head goes into the ceiling. There's a reason for it. You most likely saw me crouching after the boss fight. And that is because I am using a glitch that is called Headless. So what Headless glitch does pretty much is it extends your hitbox. So let's say for these dragons, if there was a dragon on top of me and he was shooting a fireball, it would obviously hit my head. With the Headless glitch on though, the game doesn't really notice that Lena's head is part of the hitbox, because the hitbox is way more up there. Which is a really nice thing for pretty much the entire game. We don't do it for the second stage because I picked up a secret sub-weapon. I don't know if that was noticed. But that sub-weapon is behind the pillar, and if I would have turned on the Headless glitch, I would have jumped, but of course the game doesn't know that that's my hitbox already, so I wouldn't be able to grab it. But from the second stage on, we do that for every boss. The reason we do that only after the boss fights is the Headless glitch only gets activates when you screen transition while being in crouch animation. And that's not working for the normal screen transition, so we can only do it after the bosses where she can stand still. However, if you do that somewhere in a stage, you crouch again, let's say you get scared by an enemy, you're like, oh no, I have to crouch and dodge, it's disabled immediately, and then you can't turn it back on until after the next boss fight where you can crouch and screen transition. So that's one big thing we have in this game. Another thing you saw me do here a few times already is the so-called sword cancels, like these ones. It's pretty much, like in theory, it's pretty doable. It's a window of about 16 frames from what I remember for the 2 hitboxes from Lena and the enemies to meet. But practically there's a bunch of enemies, let's say they're in a higher spot, which makes it pretty hard to time that sword slash. But it's a technique we also use throughout the entire game. So what I'm doing now is I activated a sub-weapon that's called the armor. You see that Lena's armor changed a tiny bit. You can, while wearing the armor, you can take up 5 or 6 hits. If it's 5 or 6, that's kind of like a frame rule thing. You can't really say how much it is in the end. But you can take a bunch of hits until you turn back and get through enemies a lot faster. That's what we did here. But you see, I have some of these armors in my inventory still. And we pretty much want to collect as many armors as we can in this game. And the main reason for that is pretty much the final boss in this game. Because there's another technique you can do with this sub-weapon. Like most sub-weapons, you have one function they serve. For the armor, it's a bit different. You can wear the armor to get this invincibility, to get past enemies. But if you wear an armor already and you equip a second one and use it, you can do a so-called armor bomb, which makes good use of bosses. Like they die super quickly, which is something you're gonna see at the end of this stage. So this stage, the crystal pillar, or how is it called, crystal pillar, there's some translation issues obviously, but crystal pillar is one of the hardest stages if you start out learning this game. Because the entire stage pretty much is on a global timer, so you want to try and get through the first part and the second part as soon as you can. Because the boss, and I haven't talked about that until now, the boss HP bar you see already on top, on the bottom of the game. So the longer you take for the stage, actually, the more HP the bosses have in this game. So you really want to try and finish fast, and because otherwise the boss is gonna have too much HP. So this is not looking too well right now, which means we might have to use more on the boss to get him down. Yeah, so if we have any donations, might be a good moment to read some.
Oh, wonderful, because we do. This one, I am not sure if it might have been read by the previous host. I did not get an answer when I asked. But we have $29 from Raccoons saying, no donation, no problem. Time to reach $500. Great bully show from MZ, great marathon. And we also have $11 from F. Paul saying, if no one is going to break past the 500, I guess I have to do that myself. Will we make it to the next round number?
Nice.
So, will we make it to the 600 by the end of this marathon? We still have 2 more runs after this one coming up. One of which is the Super Mario 64 Randomizer. So, you know, maybe it's in your hands. Please keep your donations coming.
Yeah, I'm gonna help you guys out right after this run. I'm gonna donate 20 bucks my own. So let's keep the hype going, guys. Come on. So yeah, this one is the last regular stage. This is the one I was talking about RNG. Like, normally the stages are pretty execution heavy and the RNG is singly on the bosses. For this stage, however, these fireballs we get, that's complete RNG. Some of them can spawn pretty low, like this one, some of them can spawn pretty high. And usually the higher ones are easier to dodge. For this screen though, it's all back to execution, like these fireballs. There is a thing we've noticed, some of them appear a bit faster, like they have a bit of a faster speed than others. But still, they come the same way at you every time, the same as your movement is just stays the same every time you get through the stage. So these statues are a bit of a pain because you can't really reach them. You have to use this, that's the only sub-weapon you can kill them. For any other sub-weapon you can't really hit them, and this one we gotta, yeah, still get. So it's looking pretty good in terms of armor. You see I have a bunch of them equipped still. We need all of them for the last boss. This boss, heavy RNG too. Yeah, that's the worst RNG we get. Because he can either stay on screen for a bit longer and switch to the other side, or go up immediately. And you can see if he goes off the screen how long it takes for him to even come back, and you'll be able to hit him. So casually it's recommended to, if you start out with this game, it's recommended to wait for him to dive in, jump over him and give him one hit. So this is a bit of an advanced strat, where we try to do a jump to determine his height he flies in, and then do these jumps where we hit him and then jump over and hit again. So yeah, basically that was the last stage. So what we have now is a little bit of a boss rush. Yeah, and that's a problem with the headless sometimes. It's really hard to grab things that are above, because you actually, your head is not part of the hitbox anymore, so to say. Okay, so these bosses, I really love this game, but the bosses are a bit boring in my opinion, so they just probably been like, okay, we have this boss and this boss, what can we do? Let's just take 3 bosses from the game and just put them there again. That's your boss rush. But the music is an absolute banger. I really love the entire soundtrack for this. So this is pretty much your boss from Stage 4, Valhalla. Again, so this guy, the RNG factor about him is if he comes in a sharp dive or not. If he lags a bit more, you can actually tell he's coming in a good way. If he doesn't come in a sharp dive, you can actually try and give him a double hit per cycle. So like this. This is possible. If he comes in from the very top, it's impossible to hit him twice. So this really can kill runs. First time he appears and then he comes back for the boss rush. that's a pretty huge RNG factor. So we gotta crouch again, because we want to make good use of the headless glitch. So last boss of the boss rush coming up. Also, what I haven't mentioned yet is the double tap. You have two movement speed in this game. One is this walking speed, which is of course pretty slow. We don't want to have that for the speed run. If you want to be running, you have to double tap on the D-pad. And sometimes if you jump up and try to hit an enemy, and your momentum is a bit off and you hit too shortly before you land again, it's possible to lose your speed, and then that's really hurtful for a speedrun, because you have to double tap every time again to get your speed back. So again, we're trying to manipulate the height he flies in. But this was your boss rush, so all we have to do now is to defeat the final boss, which is the Dark Prince Galgia. Galgia was sealed in a prison under the Crystal Pillar. Of course, he's the bad villain, he wanted to take over the world. So they sealed him, he broke free though, and now he captured the goddess Yoko, and we as Lina, the main character of this game, we need to defeat him and set the goddess free, and set peace again to the world of Akanti. And now we're gonna try and defeat him as fast as possible using these armor bombs, and we're gonna use a hell lot of them. So time is coming up after we defeat the boss when the screen turns black. This nice little enemy cutscene. For this boss there's a lot of RNG too. Like, the best that could happen to you is if he just keeps jumping from the left to the right, so you can play this little bit of a ping pong with him. But he has a bunch of really bad attacks. He can do an ice attack, which is about 3 to 3.5 seconds. Or there's an attack with missiles too, where it's shooting like, this is one of them, where it's shooting like for 7 seconds straight, and there's nothing you can do pretty much. You just have to wait it all out. Yeah, so far it's an okay RNG. Although this background is pretty distracting. And yes, he's throwing fetuses at you. I'm not sure why, but let's not question this. So this is one of the worst attacks because you can't really do much. He's just standing there shooting these missiles at you, and you just have to wait it out. So if he would do this jump over you the entire time, that would be perfect. So that's 2 ice attacks, 2 missiles, but still an okay fight. So time comes up when the screen turns black, and time. Yeah, so she said so what, and silence. This is the end of Super Valis 4. Like I said, bit of a short game, but amazing music throughout the whole game. It's not super hard to learn. Of course, it's always a thing learning a speed game and then mastering it. That's 2 different things, I guess. But to get started out, it's a really good game to do. It's not super long. Of course, we have a Discord community channel. We have a huge tutorial by the world record holder Joe, and everybody of us is willing to help. So if anybody of the speedrunners here wants to learn this game, feel free to ask, feel free to join us. It's a really great game. I like it a lot. And yeah, that's it from me. That's Super Valis 4. Thanks everybody who donated to the bid incentive for the red hair, blue hair. And special thanks, of course, to you guys for having me with this run. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, and if it's not hurting you, please consider donating. It's for a great cause. I'm always happy whenever I see the speedrunning community get together like this, and I really think if it's a small marathon, a big one, it doesn't matter. We come together for a good cause, and it does make a difference in the end. So I'm pretty happy I was part of this. I was able to show this really nice speed game. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the marathon. Like I promised, I'm gonna do my donation right now after this run. Hope you guys keep the hype train going, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for the run, Tin. It was really amazing. And to think that we got a $96 total on your bid war for
Wow.
a 16-minute and 32 run. That's amazing.
Thank you, guys.
That's really, really great. So thank you everyone for donating. I really enjoyed the run. I really enjoyed the bid war. Yeah, let's get into intermission before we get over to Ludwig van Cooper with a Super Mario 64 randomizer, a 70-star on a random seed.
Good luck.
So let's get hyped for that, and we'll be back in a bit.